The Midnight Archive. Julia hurled herself down the attic stairs, nearly tumbling. The air had grown electric, buzzing with a pressure that made her skull throb. The red door was now wide open. A low hum leaked out of it, not mechanical, not human. It was as if the wood itself was vibrating with something unspeakable. Against all instinct, she approached. Inside, the room was not as large as she'd feared or hoped. It was narrow, lined with tall shelves. Books, hundreds of them, filled the space, most unmarked and leather-bound in flesh tones. Some pulsed gently under the dim lanterns hanging overhead. But that wasn't the worst of it. On the far wall was a mirror, but it did not reflect her. It reflected another version of the room, a darker one, rotted and slick with mold, and inside it a second Julia. That Julia looked directly at her and smiled. Julia stumbled back, but the room had changed. The shelves now held objects, toys, bones, locks of hair in jars, a camera just like hers. She reached for the camera. It was warm, and as she touched it, she heard the whisper again, this time not in her head, but all around her. She took your place. You shouldn't have stayed so long. She turned back to the mirror. It was empty now. No reflection, just the hum. Just the sound of something enormous breathing behind the walls. And from somewhere far below, from the basement, came a single echoing sound. A camera shutter. Beneath the floorboards, the camera shutter echoed through the bones of the house like a gunshot underwater. Julia froze. It wasn't her camera. Her hands were empty. It had come from below, from the basement. She stared down the hallway, where the door to the basement stood open once more, a yawn in the house's throat. Shadows moved on their own behind it, flickering against no discernible light. She didn't want to go down there, every instinct to scream no. But she remembered what the voice had said. She took your place. If that thing behind the mirror was out, walking in her skin, she had to do something. She couldn't let the housekeeper like it kept whatever had screamed into her ears upstairs. With shaking limbs, she took a single step toward the stairs, and the house responded. The floorboards beneath her creaked, not from her weight, but from movement beneath them. Something was crawling under the floor, scratching, sniffing. The basement steps groaned louder than before. The moment she crossed the threshold, the temperature dropped another 10 degrees. Her breath fogged, then crystallized in the air. Julia descended into the dark. The stone floor of the basement was slick with moisture and streaked with a black residue that stank of rot and old rain. Her flashlight beams skittered across rusted chains bolted into walls, overturned chairs, and a metal door in the far corner, one she hadn't seen before. It was sealed shut by a ring of salt. Beside it was another Polaroid, pinned to the wall by an iron nail. This time, the photo was of her sleeping in the attic chair. She hadn't been in the chair, had she? She reached for the photo, and the moment her fingers touched it, the salt ring shuddered. A wind rose from nowhere, spiraling dust and hair and whispers around her feet. The door began to rattle. From behind it came the sound of laughter, a child's laughter, then the soft, sick sound of something large dragging itself toward the door from the other side. Julia backed away, her heart in her throat, but as she did, her flashlight flickered, then died. In the pitch black, the dragging sound stopped. A voice whispered inches from her ear. "You broke the seal." She bolted up the stairs 2 at a time, but when she reached the top, the house had changed. The front door was gone. In its place was a blank wall of pulsing red wood, as if the house had grown a second skin. The photos she'd collected were now nailed across the walls, bleeding ink. Each photo showed her in a different room of the house, but in every single one, her eyes were gone. Hollow sockets stared from her face. A noise echoed above her. Laughter. The same child's laugh from the basement, now multiplied. Dozens of children giggling, mocking. Then a voice deeper than the earth. "You belong to the lantern now." All the lanterns in the house flared at once. Flames spilled across their glass enclosures, writhing upward like grasping fingers. The red door slammed open. Julia turned, but what stepped out was not her. It wore her face, her clothes, held her camera, but its eyes glowed with that same yellow light. And when it smiled, its teeth were all wrong, too many, too sharp. She ran, room to room, hallway to hallway, but the house kept folding, reshaping, locking her in loops. No matter where she went, she ended up back in the red room, back before the mirror. But now the mirror did reflect her, only it wasn't her anymore. The reflection was smiling, and behind it, through the mirror's glass, stood everyone she'd seen in the photographs: the woman at the dining table, the child in the nursery, the eyeless figures from the frames. And they were all watching. The mirror began to crack, and through those cracks leaked blood. From somewhere distant, the flare in her pack ignited on its own, casting a hellish glow. She turned, but the house turned with her. The walls pulsed, the laughter grew, then silence, absolute, suffocating silence. Julia stood alone, or so she thought. A hand touched her shoulder. When she turned around, she was looking at herself, the other Julia, pale, smiling, eyes like lanterns. "It's your turn to stay behind." The flare died, the house exhaled, and the red door closed. To be continued.